So is this a practice or is this the actual thing?
This is a real thing.
Are you fucking with the tick?
This is Barbie Jitsu podcast number 1. My name is Colleen O'Callahan. I'm here with my friend Irene Musgrove. So today we're going to get kind of the introduction started. The purpose of this podcast is really to open a conversation about women in sports and in leadership and girls across the board, because it's a conversation that is not very present, I would say, wouldn't you?
Right, yeah.
And so basically, like, we're two average people. We're athletic girls, females coming up in the world, hoping to talk about our experiences and how we can fix things, how we can make things better for other people, and go from there. So I guess we should just dive right in.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, I guess I should probably start by telling people what Barbie Jitsu is, right?
Yeah, definitely explain where that came from.
Yeah, so it actually started mostly as like a way for me to address my own insecurity and my own fear, because I recently started going to jiu-jitsu like a few months ago. And of course, like, I mean, I'll get into it in a minute, but I've been in male-dominated sports my whole life. But this is a little different because it's very up close and personal. And so I was super insecure about going to these classes with these men, grown and otherwise, and I was just like trying to put a name to my fear. And the way I felt was like when I put on a borrowed gi, because, you know, I didn't have one at that point. I kind of like saw myself in the mirror and I was like, you look like freaking martial arts Barbie, you know. Yeah, and internally my mind was like, you have no business here, like, you know, what's the point? Like, you're small, you're blonde, you're cute, you're a fashion designer, you don't need to be in jiu-jitsu. And it's like, okay, well, maybe I won't be good at jiu-jitsu right away, but you know, I'm just gonna Barbie Jitsu this. And so, you know, that's where the initial thing came from, but it kind of has layers to it, which makes it powerful and like makes it catchy, which is why I've been thinking about doing a podcast for several weeks. Because, like, as a girl, I had a lot of Barbies. I'm sure you did too. Mm-hmm. And she gets a lot of flack for being what she is, you know.
Ultra feminine, the
Ultra.
housewife always chasing Ken.
Yeah, all of that. But I think that if you really think about what Barbie is and how many different careers she's had, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And just in general, like, and you'll have to forgive our voices because we are both recovering from nasty plague colds, but yeah, Barbie, she is the height of girlhood and femininity, but she's also like the OG career woman.
Yeah, she's done so much, not even just in like careers, but also like athletic. I mean, I don't know if you had it growing up, but I had the Olympic Barbies, like the gymnastic ones. That was my favorite.
See, I didn't get those because most of my Barbies were donated to me by a local family who had like 3 daughters. So I had the Princess Barbies and all that, but I did have like the whole like Barbie playhouse and like all her friends, which was super cool because it was like, oh, here's blonde Barbie and here's brunette Barbie and here's, you know, black Barbie, and I just think that
Indian Barbie, it was awesome.
Yeah, I had a Pocahontas Barbie, I think. So it's just really cool to kind of take that traditionally feminine, like deeply almost sexist in a way. Like, I don't want to go there because I don't think she is, but like perceived as kind of a sexist person and reclaim it for girls everywhere, for womanhood. Stake our flag in its mountain, metaphorically. That's kind of where Barbie Jitsu came from, and I'm sure it'll evolve. I mean, I've only been doing jiu-jitsu now for 2.5, 3 months, so I'm I'm just a white belt, no stripes. I go 5 to 6 days a week between like Muay Thai, kickboxing, and jiu-jitsu, and I'm learning a lot, but I've already learned that like my game as a woman and as the only girl that really goes to the jiu-jitsu classes at my gym, it's drastically different from the game that the guys are playing for now. So I'm sure that I won't talk too much about that tonight, but I'm sure that as I get better, I'll talk more about it. And I think it'll be cool with this podcast. You guys can like follow my life through jiu-jitsu, because I think I'm going to be here a while. Yeah. I think there's just a lot to learn, and it's never ending. So I guess I should probably go for like, who the hell am I, right?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, well, for starters, I want to preface this by saying like Irene here is you're a runner.
Yeah.
And you're a very good runner, whether or not you're going to cop to that out loud or admit it.
I am good. I've gotten a lot better in the past couple years compared to like the last other 10 years of my running career.
Yeah, you've been doing this a while. And like, I've known you for several years now. So I've been in part of your journey for a while.
Yeah.
So... But I can tell you, like, it still blows my mind that you can run long enough to need to have a snack and then run some more. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
But what I've done my whole life, so brief capsule nutshell of my life in sports so far is that, like most young girls, I started playing a bunch of sports when I was young. I have 5 brothers, so, like... We all played sports at the YMCA, and I tried to go to dance class, but dance classes are a lot more expensive than the basketball league, which I think is an interesting thing, too, because we can get into, in a different time, we can get into, like, why more boys don't go into dance. But, so, I used to go to dance classes at the community center, but I would also play basketball at the YMCA with my brothers, and like I'd always have a brother on the team, and then I'd play soccer, and I was young, like this is like pee-wee level stuff, like before age 7 or 8, and then I played soccer until I was about 13, 14, and then I quit everything, and I just went into like the arts and performing and like marching band and music. And so, that's not an uncommon experience. And then I got to college. Like, I haven't played any sports for years. And I got to college, and I just didn't feel good about myself, like my body, my self-esteem. Because it's one thing when you're in high school and, you know everybody and you've been there for a while and you kind of know where you stand. And, like, had this identity. People knew me. I was a theater kid. I was in the choir. I was in the band. So, like, that was me. And then you go to college, and all of a sudden, there are 12 different versions of you on the same dorm floor. So you're just like, well, shit, what's my identity now? But it was a cool opportunity because I got to reinvent myself. And after a particularly, like, not bad, but, like, shitty breakup, first college boyfriend that's, like, garbage. Mm-hmm. I was, like, really just tired of being that same high school person. So I started going to the weight room a lot and, like, lifting weights, which this is, like, 2011, before the girls' weightlifting thing really kicked off. Like, I mean, it had already started. Like, I learned how to lift off of Reddit's, like, 2X chromosomes fitness and that kind of thing. But a lot of times I was the only girl in the weight room, which is intimidating no matter who you are.
Daunting at first.
Even with 5 brothers, like, I was terrified to go in the dungeon.
Especially with UC's weight room, it's all, like, dingy lighting and...
Yeah, it's like a cave, like an elevated cave. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Excellent facility, but, like, and there's an actual physical wall between the weight room and, like, the girl zone, the cardio zone.
The ellipticals where the cardio bunnies go.
Yeah. So, started weightlifting. I tried cardio. I'm terrible. I'll just cop to it. I'm a terrible, shitty runner. I hate cardio. The only way I'm running is if it's like away from something.
Or to beer.
Or to beer. Or to pizza, or, you know, anything that's like not good for me. Like, I'm like, yes, let's run to that. So, you know, that running didn't work out, started lifting weights. And then through that, and through, you know, just being social and being in college and partying a lot, I met the men's rugby team. Which, you know, it's funny because I'm an aggressive person, physically and, like, intellectually, emotionally. I'm just an aggressive person. I go after things. Like,
yeah. You're a go-getter.
I guess so. I've never thought of myself that way, but yeah.
I can see it.
I just say things, right? I mean, how many times I'm just like, Irene, I'm just going to tell you this, point blank.
Yeah, you're very blunt.
Yeah. So, you know, I'd like to be physically aggressive as well. Like, I liked weightlifting because I like to hurt a little bit. And so meeting the rugby team and seeing their game and, like, you know, I knew the first game I saw, the first tackle I saw somebody just get decimated. I was like, yes, that's what I need. And so we had UC didn't have a women's team at that point, but we actually started one, me and there are 7 other girls that just started showing up to practice. And it was funny because at first I'm introverted, so I'm not really brave enough, especially at that time in my life, usually to go and try new things without having somebody I know there. And the assistant coach of the women's team, who I knew from the men's team, actually bribed me. He was like, look, I'll help you move into your new apartment and then buy you dinner as long as you go to practice after, because they need more girls. And I was like, fair enough, I get food out of this. So, but I loved it from the moment I started. And so then I played rugby for the next 3.5, 4 years. Like, really got into rugby. To the point that my job was to design rugby apparel. And women's rugby is just a really fascinating and complex sport. And, you know, I do miss it at times, but it's for the best that I've moved past it. Like, and I want to talk more about that later, about why I quit and why I, retired myself, I should say, because I didn't really quit. I finished the season and then I decided I was done with the sport. So, yeah, so, like, then I played rugby, and I did that up until, like, 2015, and then I just stopped all sports again because I didn't have anything else, and I didn't know where I belonged, and I wasn't interested, and I also had some injuries I needed to heal from, but I still stayed active. I still stayed in the weight room, and I still, like, got other people involved. Like, I mean, I drug you into the weight room with me to get you more comfortable with free weights instead of machine weights, which you were doing at the time. So,
well, I mean, I had been using free weights here and there since like 2013 after a really bad breakup, but that was before we started actually working out together.
Right, and I think that before, you know, you weren't really using weight training as a way to further your running at that point.
It was more of to break the monotony of running.
Yeah, and so, you know, we stayed in touch, and we got to the point where we were working together. And Samantha, who I'm sure will be on the show more in the future, she's not here tonight, but, you know, I got her started into weightlifting too, so, you know, stayed active. At this point, I've graduated college, and so, like, you know, we're not old people by any stretch of imagination. We are
mid-20s.
Yeah, we're babies still. Yeah. We're little fledglings out in the world, trying to be grown and trying to pull it together.
Adulting as best as we can.
Yeah, and I think that we do it, I don't want to say better than our peers, but we seem to be doing all right, and I think I know a lot of that comes from our sports backgrounds and right. Our team activities. Because,
you know, sports teaches something huge that relates better to normal adult life than a lot of other things, and that's discipline.
Yeah, and I mean, you know how I feel about discipline. Like, I'm a big Jocko podcast nerd, so, like, every time he says the word discipline, I'm like, yes, good! It's a little bit obsessive, but what's really funny is, looking back and like stating all the things I've done and the sports I've played, I don't consider myself particularly athletic. I mean, am I fit? Pretty fit, not deadly. And, but I've never considered, like, it's never been, like, part of my identity. Like, I've never even considered trying to be a professional athlete in any way. I've never considered myself to be, I don't know, like, how some girls are, like, just athletic?
Yeah.
Like, and they just have a talent, like, they just...
And it's in your genetics.
Well, yeah, but, like, I mean, there's nothing I hate more, love/hate, I should say, than, like, meeting a new friend and then, like, having her just be phenomenal at every single athletic thing she tries. Like, some people are just skilled.
It's like the whole Serena Vanderwoodson complex. We watch Gossip Girl a lot.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's something that's kind of weird about me, is that, like, my dog is currently deciding to crash everything. But I've never considered myself an athlete, like an athletic person. I've just done these things because they gave me something.
I feel it, though. I'm more of the Bowerman mentality, where if you have a body, you're an athlete. But that's for another time.
Yeah, but I definitely agree with you. Like, and so that's one of the, that's a huge driving factor behind why I wanted to start this podcast, because, there's a big conversation around professional athletes, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a big conversation around getting women access to more opportunities for higher levels. But, who's having the conversation about everyday people who go to work and go to a hobby sport or go on long runs with snacks in their fanny packs, and then go about their lives? Who's having that conversation? And it's one that some people are, but not a lot of people are. And it's concerning to me, because I was reading, I went to school for fashion design, and my focus has been on like sports apparel and stuff like that. So it's kind of weird for me. I've run a lot of studies. I've done a lot of research on, women in sports, because it's, it's a market. It's a massive market. And the most concerning thing I think I've ever read is that girls quit sports at 1.5 times the rate of boys. And that's before the age of like 13 or 14. The data's a little dicey. They go back and forth depending on what study you read. But the fact that by 17, 50% of women have dropped out of sports entirely, just quit by age 17. And like, you think about age 17, that's a critical time in a girl's life.
Right. You're at your junior or senior year of high school, you're trying to decide where to go to college, mm-hmm. which can in turn drive your career choice in the rest of your life.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too much into it because I feel like it's a separate podcast entirely, but like, girls are awful to each other, especially at that age. And I think that, I think that it might have a little bit to do with the fact that before 13, most of them have quit their sports already, and then the rest of them by 17 are just out of the game. But what's weird about that, what the flip side of that is, when we talk about like women's empowerment and like, how do we socially give girls more opportunities, and like in the workforce we close the wage gap, or we make things more available to women. The weird thing here is that 96% of female like C-suite executives in this study that we're reading played sports at a collegiate level. So like, obviously they're women that haven't dropped out, and there's something to be said for that. So that's huge, right? Mm-hmm. That's and like, it's a problem, and it's where is that conversation? Why, why, I know we talk about, like, why girls quit sports and we have, you know, legal things in place, but I don't think it's a legal issue. I think it's a personal issue on some levels. And I think one thing that's really lacking, if you, like, open any social media and you pull up, like, if you pull up the fitness hashtag, you can make a Bible of all the, like, surface level, chintzy, fitspiration, workout girls and guys and quotes.
Contorting yourself in positions to make certain body parts look more attractive.
Yeah, like the booty pop.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it. But
try not to do that anymore.
Yeah. But it, like, all these standards, and they're not unrealistic, I don't think, because obviously these people have achieved them, and that's great. Right. But there's, I mean, where are the people that are just out here doing things because they're good for you?
Or because they enjoy it.
Right. Like, where are these people? Because you don't need to look like a fitness model to enjoy your sport and to understand that it's giving, like, value to your life and structure to your life that normally you wouldn't have. And so there's this really cool, it's actually from Refinery 29 took this study, which, like, kind of shocking to me because Refinery 29 is usually some pretty, like, I don't know, I always look at it as kind of like low level information, like easily digestible, but they made this pie chart about girls' reasons for dropping out of sports. And I just want to, like, go around, because when I was reading this, it was funny because it's like the percentage of girls, but I also was sitting there thinking to myself, this is the exact percentage breakdown of why I've quit my sports every single time. Yeah. You know, even as an adult, this is, like, in my mind, the breakdown of why I'm not playing a sport anymore. So the first one, I think, is pretty simple. Like, 39% of girls drop out to prioritize academics and or other extracurricular activities. So that's real, right? Like, yeah. Especially at a young age, before you're, like, really good at juggling 1,000 things.
Or even have your own transportation.
Right, and you're kind of dependent on other people's money, other people's time to take care of you and to get you there and back. And
especially if your parents aren't working traditional 9-to-5 jobs.
Yeah,
it's a big struggle.
Yeah, any kind of barrier at 17 and below is massive. Because, you know, you don't have independence and you're not your own person yet and you're still developing. So, you know, that's real. And I'm not sure, I mean, I'm sure that could be reduced, but I'm not sure that ever could be eliminated. Because realistically, you know, your academics are important.
Right. And also, like, I've seen parents push their kids into multiple activities. I mean, I was just talking to one of my running partners last weekend about it. She has to keep a Google Calendar of all her kids' activities because she's got her kids in so many different activities. It's hard to keep track, and it's like they don't even get a break between. Yeah,
and that's, you know, that's kind of cool because it keeps them out of trouble, but I mean, there's also a conversation around high functioning anxiety and depression in youths. And a lot of that they trace back to having schedules like that and not having any time to decompress and having that much pressure put on because it's like, oh, well, I spend all my time chauffeuring you to these places, so, right. You know, I pay your school fees, I pay all these other things, and, like, you should do well and like, don't let us down and keep your grades up, and also here's your tournament, and so, like, you're going to school 8 hours a day and you're doing homework for 4 hours or 6 hours, however, depending on your school and your course load. Right. And then,
because I know, and then AP, I had upwards of 12 hours of homework a night.
Big, yeah. And then on top of that, you throw the fact that you're doing, like, 40 hours a week of sports.
Sometimes even, like, a job on top of that.
Yeah, it's kind of like you described you're in the middle of marathon training, and it's like you described that as you're treating it like a second full-time job. Yeah. Because it is. I mean, you can't just, like, you don't
just... It's not just the running, it's also making sure you're keeping your joints healthy, it's also making sure your nutrition is on point.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know anybody that can just wake up one day and run forever.
Right. But on top of the whole scheduling thing, there's also the factor of when you get to a certain age, after being in elementary school and trying a bunch of different things, you're going to come to a fork in the road and have to choose a different activity. And for kids who've enjoyed all these activities even, it's heartbreaking to have to like choose one or two paths to go down instead of the 5 that they've stuck with for so long.
Yeah, and I think something else that I noticed too is that when you're little, the Pee-wee leagues are out of control, right? Like everybody there's Pee-wee everything. And then you hit 12, right? Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, not anymore. You know, like there's no more let's say, so
you're going from the 8-foot hoop to the 10-foot hoop in basketball.
Yeah, but and it's also just like, you know, when you're that young, it's a lot of it is, you know, combined girls and boys, and so like you've got Pee-wee soccer, Pee-wee football, and like Pee-wee everything, and so those are open to everybody, and then all of a sudden, you know, you hit a certain point, and basically when we start to like diverge sexually, like when boys become bigger than girls and stronger, and then girls develop. So basically at puberty. So then all of a sudden, you know, it's, if there's not a boys and girls team, maybe it's not accessible. Maybe you're not allowed to participate in that sport anymore. So it kind of leads us into the next one, which it's just like 21% drop out because they feel like they're missing out on their social life. That's weird, you know, because sports are very social. Right. But I don't think they mean it like that, because I remember, and this is like when we were younger, my biggest fear, like I had a friend, and she was just a phenomenal soccer player. Just phenomenal. And we were best friends when we played soccer together. We played on the same team. She was way faster than me, way more, like just naturally talented at soccer. When we got to high school, I was playing like soccer and volleyball for the church, you know, just casually, just because, you know, what else am I going to do? And I wanted to play a sport. But when I got to high school, I went to the volleyball practice, like the pre-practices, like the tryouts and the open sessions, and I just remember telling myself, like, I didn't want to be seen as like a tomboy anymore, because I had 5 brothers, right? So I wanted to be a girly girl, like I wanted to be feminine, and sports didn't fit that for me, which is, you know, now looking back, I'm like, oh, I wish somebody had told me how wrong I was. But
right. But back then you got to consider too, there was also this stigma attached to female team sports where potentially you could be seen as a lesbian. That wasn't exactly...
It was not it was a bad thing.
It wasn't socially acceptable at the time.
That was like when people still use the word dyke, and nobody told them, like, you can't say that.
Right.
You know? So that's a very real thing. Like, yeah, I quit because I didn't want to be seen as less feminine. So, like, why would I play sports? They're not feminine anymore. Like, feminine is being in theater and going to dance class and singing in the choir. Yeah. And I was in the marching band too, because I was a total nerd. But
yeah,
you know, that's a big topic on its own, and you know, it's I think it's gotten better. I don't know any girls that age, but I think that's something that has gotten a lot better, especially with Instagram and especially with the connectivity that we have. And there's been a big pushback to say, like, no, sports are like we have so many really strong, beautiful, feminine sports leaders right now. When you think about, you know, Serena in tennis, and like,
and you have Megan Rapinoe in soccer in Seattle. She just called out the mayor of Seattle, who is a female, for not recognizing Seattle's professional female sports teams.
Yeah, well, in the whole U.S. women's soccer fight for you know, equal pay and just, you know, it being part of the women's rugby field for so long at the level that I was involved at, you know, it existed there too, getting women's rugby recognized, getting those women recognized, which is a pretty fierce sport. And those, I mean, massive respect for all my former teammates and all my former, you know, competitors, because it's just a fierce sport. But then this kind of gets into 32% of girls drop out because they thought they weren't good enough. I quit every single sport I've ever started because I felt like I had nowhere else to go. I'd peaked. And in my less mature days, that was enough to push me out. And that's a conversation that, it's not had, because the women, these beautiful athletes and these like strong, excellent athletes at a professional level, can they have that conversation? Are they capable of having that conversation? Because like they're definitely good enough, right? So like, where is it for average Janes that are just like, I'm decent at this, right. And the thing that blows my mind, something that sticks, there are two incidences in my life in sport that stick with me, and like almost like not a trauma, but just like I still recall them clear as day. And the first one, I must have been 7 or 8 years old. No, it was after we moved to Ohio. So I was 9 or 10. And I was playing basketball at the YMCA, and I was on my brother's team. And of course, at that age, it's one of the guys' dads coaching, and the guy's kid was really good at basketball, and I was the only girl on the team, and that was fine, because at this point in my life, I'm used to being the only girl. I mean, I've spent my whole life being the only girl aside from my mom, so that's something that I know intimidates a lot of people, but it's not a factor for me. And I just remember I showed up to every practice. I'm not good at basketball, genuinely terrible. And but I showed up to practice, and I had a great attitude, and I'm like that picture perfect student athlete, right? The one that's like try hard, but maybe not all that great. And I remember the coach pulled me aside, and I'm like 10, okay? I'm young, I'm little, I'm small. And I'm playing with people that are 10 and 12. So this is not a competitive thing. This should not be a competitive thing. It's the YMCA in Xenia, Ohio, right?
Right.
And the coach pulled me aside and was like, hey, from now on, when you get the ball, just give it to somebody else.
Wow.
Yeah.
My dad was a coach for basketball, and he would have never said that to one of his
Yeah, but what
players.
the coach was saying was like, when you get the ball, give it to my son. I think.
Oh my goodness.
So that was like a fierce moment in my life where I was like, wow, Mom, I don't want to play YMCA basketball anymore. Recreational basketball. I don't want to do that anymore. No thanks. And then the other moment that, this is why I quit volleyball, because I played volleyball for like 9 months. At 12 or 13 for my church. Okay, for my church. Mm-hmm. Let's just put that in perspective. Catholic church. And I was playing on the Catholic Volleyball League. Okay, so I will never forget. I was, again, when I sign up for something, I really sign up for something. I go to every informational, every practice, every open field or whatever. Same way with jiu-jitsu. You immerse yourself. Yeah. I don't know how not to. I'm like obsessive. It's the same way with jiu-jitsu. Like I signed up for this martial arts gym, and I go to every class. It's what I do. And so I'm there, and I show up to every single practice, and I'm not great at volleyball either. Like, not athletically inclined. I'm not good at it. But it doesn't matter because I'm 12 and it's a Catholic rec league, right? And I'm there with other girls my age, and we're competing and playing games. And I remember there was like a week where I missed the practices because I had a migraine or something was going on. Like I missed both practices that week because I was sick. And then I went back to practices, and everything was fine. And then somehow our league got into the semifinals for the league, the area. And I showed up to this game, and I'm dressed, and I'm in my uniform, and I'm there, and I've been at practice consistently, and I'm not great, but it's okay because we're a team and we do things together. And it's just, I sat on the bench the entire game. And I didn't understand why. Because normally I wasn't a starter. I've never been a starter, really, except in rugby. But I never started the volleyball game, but I just sat there the whole game. And she would sub people in and out, the coaches, and I was just like, Coach, when's my turn? I want to go in. Put me in, Coach.
I'm ready to play.
Yeah. And she was there, and she was just like, oh, well, just give it another minute. Just give it another minute. And the whole game went by. And I just sat there. And I was crushed. I've never bench warmed like that. Crushed. I was in tears by the last minute of the game because I knew I wasn't going in. And my parents were there. My parents were there to support me because they were like, yeah, your team made it to the semifinals. We're going to come see you play.
What was their reaction when they saw that you were on the bench the whole game?
Livid.
Oh, man. I had a similar incident with basketball.
Yeah.
When I was in middle school. I mean, our district is well known for basketball. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it was 2014, our girls' high school basketball team won state. But that's besides the point.
Big deal, though.
Yeah. When I was
excellent program, apparently.
Yeah, very excellent. I mean, we produced one of the best nationally ranked shooters in the country that plays for Ohio State.
It's not a joke.
No, it's not. Anyways, I played for my middle school's basketball team, and at that time, we were very good. And we were in the tournament, first round, and our coach was really serious about us going in, but I guess she just didn't exactly have the right method about using her resources wisely. Because she had the starters, and then she had 2 people on the bench who were pretty good, and then there was the rest of us. There was 12 people total on the team. I was usually the bench warmer of sorts, but my mom and dad were both at that game because they were excited. And, I mean, the team we played in the first round was very tough. We ended up losing by a basket, but the reason that we lost was because our starters got so tired, and our coach refused to sub in people who were perfectly capable of playing against this team. I mean, we practiced plays on how to keep this team from scoring the whole time, and everybody on the team was capable of performing these plays. Yet our coach insisted on keeping the starters in the whole game, and they got so exhausted, and in the end it ended up costing us.
Yeah, no, and I should mention too that
my mom was very upset, and she almost wrote a letter.
And I'm sure you were upset. I'd be upset. You practice so hard. And I should mention too that the volleyball game, you play 3 games in a row. It's the best 2 out of 3. Right. So I didn't just sit there for one game. I sat there
all 3.
All 3 games. Didn't move. Livid. I was sobbing.
And you played 21 points per game?
Yeah, and other girls got subbed in and out. The ones that were better than me. Fine. I just wanted to go in for a few minutes.
Regardless, this was a rec league you played in.
Yeah, Catholic rec league. And I'll never forget this because my mom comes down onto the stand, and you met my mom, so you know where I get my aggression from.
Right.
She comes down out of the stands after the game, and she, I'm upset, and the coach is like, why are you crying? And my mom is like, why didn't you put my daughter in at all? And the coach was like, oh, because she missed those 2 practices a few weeks ago.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, devastated. I left that game, and I never played volleyball again. I won't even play it on the beach. I mean, I'll smack a ball around if somebody throws one at me, but I don't seek it out. And that's just something that stuck with me ever since. And that's, I was told loud and clear, you're not good enough to be here.
I had those instances with soccer and basketball myself. I actually got told to my face after performing very well in a basketball scrimmage freshman year of high school, hey, you're too small and you're frankly not good enough, even though I was the best defensive player they had.
Well, that's
and then
not
in
even
soccer, I was the only girl on the rec league team who had never played at the select level.
Oh, yeah, that's a thing.
And I was bullied by these girls.
Mm-hmm,
and all we did in practice, because our coach was an army guy.
Intense.
He's an army guy. He just come back from Afghanistan. He just had us run laps around the soccer field for our practice. And I'm like, are we going to practice any like drills or anything? Shooting skills? Any of that? And we never did. And frankly, I remember getting on the bus after school one day and seeing the cross-country team practice. And I knew everybody on the cross-country team. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to join cross-country because one, these girls are kind, and two, I'm already running all the time anyways, so what's
the difference?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the select soccer thing's a real thing, because I remember, when I was transitioning from rec league soccer, to high school soccer, it was pretty much unspoken that unless you played select side, which isn't like around here, I think it's gone up, but at the time it was like $200 a season.
It's so expensive, and the tryouts are like so strenuous, and then you have like your parents, if they work on the weekends, they have to call off just to like, call you to like Michigan or wherever.
Right, and you play Saturday and Sunday, and that's like not viable,
and
honestly.
You also
got
to pay for hotel and food
and everything else. So yeah,
it's not affordable for all families.
That select soccer thing is a real thing. That's a real deal. And again, it's just another instance of like, hey, you don't belong here. Which leads into 46% of girls drop out because they didn't see a future for themselves in the sport. That's massive.
Yeah.
I could talk for days about that.
Oh yeah, same here.
Because it's just like, that's true, because, we can't all be Olympic level athletes, and that's something that we glorify, right? We're like, these girls are the best of the best, and so if you're not there, and if you don't have a six-pack and you don't know how to pose to pop your booty so that it looks like a freaking bubble on your backside,
or if you can't run a 6-minute mile,
right? If you can't run an 8-minute mile, you're sitting across from somebody who runs a 10-minute mile on a good day on flat terrain with no weather.
Right.
How do you explain to girls that they have a future in the sport and that they're critical, because there are people underneath them that are looking for somebody else like them, and there are benefits to your life outside of sport. How do you explain to girls at 13 years old that, like, no, you should really stick with some kind of athletic or team-oriented thing because it's going to improve your life? And also, like, 96% of executive women did this. And, why is that? That's not a conversation that's easy to have with a young woman, because it takes I think a certain level of perspective, because like thinking about it, I don't see a future for themselves in the sport. I didn't see a future for myself any longer in rugby, and there's a number of reasons for that. Some that I created on my own, some that were created by the community, but I when I retired, when I finished my last season, I kind of knew that I could either continue doing this day in and day out with no real future, and I didn't feel at that point any real benefit to my life, or I could retire and find a new path. But that's a thing. Like, who has the conversation? The majority of people who play sports, they don't become, Serena Williams.
They don't become rock star athletes.
They don't. And so, but what they do become is excellent leaders in their communities.
They become more confident in what they do outside of athletics.
Right. Yeah, they become, and
they find joy in what they do sport-wise.
Yeah, well, and you can just take so many lessons from your athletics and convey that into life, whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you're, starting a new job or whether you're, trying to
establish your footprint in the workplace.
Exactly, because I think they said somewhere in another article about like the women, the executives that played sports, they said that like when you're interviewing, there's a strong correlation between success in sports and success in business, and that when you surveyed like the HR people who do the hiring, 75% said that candidates' background in sports positively influenced their decision to hire them. And that's totally true because I'm in a leadership position at my work, and so a lot of times when I'm looking at people to add to my team or trying to find a way to help my team work better, I'm trying to run it like I did when I was a fitness captain on the rugby team, or when I was the coach of our summer sevens, casual team, and now like trying to incorporate some jujitsu stuff like mental jitsu, Barbie Jitsu. But just trying. I view people who have done sports very positively, and I'm more inclined to I guess communicate better with a woman that I know has played sports, because I think especially team sports, because I feel like that's really something. That's, it's, how to relate, how to be part of a team, how to step back and let somebody else shoot the shot and be excellent.
Right.
And that's
But at the same time, when to jump in and lend a helping hand.
Yeah, exactly. So like how to work together, and how to communicate, how to support. That's a topic that gets talked about a lot. When we talk about women supporting women, girls who play team sports, I feel like, or who are athletic and do things, in groups of women and men, they are more supportive of other women. Most of our friends now, maybe not when we met them, but now are involved in some kind of athletics because, and it's because of the support that comes with it. Like, you have a community, you have people to lean on when you need help. Even my, 2 or 3 months in jiu-jitsu here, the reason that I've, got the bug, or part of it, is because I have this awesome community of people in my neighborhood, in my world, that I can go to after work and be like, man, I had a really rough day. Can I take it out on you? And they're like, yeah, let's roll, and let's punch things, and let's get it out, and then let's talk about it. And then also, by the way, I've got your back. And that's powerful. That's really powerful. I mean, it's made a huge difference in a lot of things that I've done recently. Even just last night, going out to support one of my jiu-jitsu buddies who was, opened his very first comedy show, very first time on stage as a stand-up comic. And so it's made me, I think, a better person even in the last few months. So that's huge. That's your future might not be in the sport itself, right? You might not be the next, rock star Olympic level athlete, which I think is an interesting conversation, especially with the Winter Olympics just starting. But even if you're not the next, Michael Jordan of your sport, it's got so much value.
Right.
I can't even quantify the amount of value it's had in my life and in my mental state, and the confidence that I now have, to know that I can go out and push through something really tough and clear a hurdle that I didn't think I could do, and also the confidence to reach out to somebody and be like, hey, I'm in a tight spot and I don't know how to get out of here, but could we buddy up and work through this together? Can we tag team this and knock it out? And it's like you and I do sometimes, when you can't see the forest for the trees, and I'm like, all right, well, let me walk you through it.
Let's get some chainsaws.
Yeah. Yeah, I am let's get a chainsaw. That is my approach. Just cut it out of the way. No, but I think that, I think if I didn't play sports, because I'm an aggressive, disagreeable person. I would say, I mean that kind of, objectively. I have to question things. I have to poke at things, and then I have to, go for it.
We're designers. That's our nature.
Yeah, exactly. But it started even before I knew that I was going to be a designer. And I think that without sports, I would be destructive, self-destructive and destructive to others. And I think, without getting into it, because I think maybe we'll talk about this in the next podcast, but I think that's one of the reasons why girls are so damn mean to each other.
I agree. Not even just the mean to each other, but to just others in general.
Yeah. Especially at, puberty.
I mean, when I was younger, I was very mean to my brother.
Yeah.
I abused him, and it was awful.
Yeah.
And looking back, I was like, why did I ever do that to him?
Yeah, I mean, I remember, it was after I quit sports, I would just go up and kick boys in the shins. Other girls I would bully, shoulder around, I'm tougher than you. And why did I do that? I don't know. I was an asshole. But I think, that it's so critical to keep your life balanced, and being involved in sports helps do that. Chemically in your brain, as well as, psychologically. Let me see if I can find this quote. Yeah, so this is from this Fortune magazine article about successful women and how sports, changed it. But it said this girl, Claire Shipman, I guess, who's a television journalist, she said something happens when girls play sports. They embody the experience of not just winning, but the critical experience of losing. It's that process of carrying on and clearing hurdles that really builds confidence. It's an incredibly useful proving ground for business and leadership. And that, in a nutshell, that's what it is. Nobody wins all the time.
Right.
Right? And
hell, even, not to jab at you, but, Patriots just lost the Super Bowl. They're used to winning.
Damn it. They are used to winning. But did you see Tom Brady's statement on that? It was really I know everybody hates it. I know everybody hates him, but it took him a couple of days. But he posted on Facebook that he was grateful.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you be, right? Because you're Tom Brady.
You're a stellar athlete, and
yeah,
you're playing exceptionally well for your age. Most humans their athletic ability deteriorates by that age, and Tom Brady's
phenomenal,
breaking through that. And
yeah,
I absolutely hate Tom Brady.
And for the record, I'm a Patriots fan by birth. Okay, it's required, or I'd be disowned by my family.
Which I totally.
Yeah, my family's from Boston,
it's
from Chelsea, Massachusetts. So
it's acceptable for you to be a Patriots fan. Sorry,
thanks for your approval here.
I'm a Bengals fan.
I don't need you to validate me.
I'm a Bengals fan, born and raised, but that's a story for another day.
I'm used to losing. No, but
Not really. We've had some good seasons.
Some good games.
Oh yeah.
No, but it's real because this morning, you're getting over this cold or whatever it is, and you said your run this morning, your long run that you do on the weekends, it wasn't great, but you were grateful that you went and you did it because it kind of realigned you for the week, and I'm sure if you want to get super
fresh air was nice.
Yeah, and if you want to get super emotional, grateful for the fact that you have two legs.
Yeah.
Right, that carry you around and your health.
Grateful my IT band's not injured anymore.
Yeah, and that's how I feel too. At jiu-jitsu, I get tapped all the time. I think I have managed in 3 months exactly 0 submissions. I lied. I did get an armbar once a couple weeks ago on the smallest kid in the gym.
You were so proud of it
psyched.
too.
I was yes, but he's the only other person in the gym that's close to my size. He's actually a little smaller than me. So that's like in 3 months, that's the only submission that I got. But I have a lot of gratitude for what I'm learning and a lot of respect for the fact that like I don't know and I'm not good and that these people are a lot better than me. And like, I mean, I can get into the mental side of jiu-jitsu forever. It's a rabbit hole that I won't go down just yet because I don't think I could speak intelligently to it. But there's just, honestly, I'm just so grateful that I have this community and that I'm learning this skill and that I have the ability to do it because, you know, a lot of people don't. And I think like my main goal right now in my life is I think it's kind of my duty to stand up and be like, I'm average and it's okay. I mean, not in like a negative way, but like
I'm ugly and I'm proud.
Ugly and proud is a good way to be too, but I'm an average athlete and I just want people to understand that like you can be an average athlete and strive to get better because I am.
I mean, still benefit.
Right. Like it's not an accident that like we wake up and go to the gym at 5:00 in the morning, right, which is god awful every time. And I know I'm crabby,
especially in winter.
Ugh. But
Ohio winters are absolutely miserable.
Yeah, but I just want to be able to, because I never saw this growing up, and I don't know if it's there now, but I just want to be somebody that stands up and says, this is who I am, this is what I do, and I'm here, and I'm making this space more open to you. You know, I want to be able to open doors until, like, you know, like when we lived in New York and we got on the subway and, like you would get behind somebody a little bit bigger than you or a little bit bolder than you on the morning rush, and they'd, like, elbow in and, like, make space. That's kind of my goal in life.
Or to, like, use their nasty carts as battering rams.
Yeah. You'd like get your work bag and like your elbows out and like maybe you'd cough a little so that people stepped away and then you just.
And there's also the instance where you're on the train and you can't, like, you're trying to hold on, but like everybody's in the way of like the poles that you can actually reach. Mm-hmm. Being 5 foot, it's very hard. Like, right. I had to, like, balance on my tiptoes some days just to hold on.
Right, or just grab onto a stranger and get tossed around. But, yeah, I just feel like it's my lot in life being blessed with a little bit more confidence and self-assurance, I guess. A little bit more of that to shoulder in and make space for everybody. And that's kind of the ultimate goal here. You know, Barbie Jitsu is making space for other women. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I feel like that's maybe where we should stop for now, for tonight. And maybe pick up there next time, but yeah. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Gonna kind of feeling this out. Never done this before.
Of course.
Nobody might listen.
Now, did you want to plug your Instagram for this podcast at all?
Yeah, I better. Be consistent.
It's a good way to get people to, like, stay involved.
Yeah. Okay, well, Barbie Jitsu does have an Instagram at Barbie Jitsu. It's exactly how it sounds. Right now, there's full disclosure, there's not much on it because I think I decided on Wednesday, I was like, I'm going to do this.
It was on a whim.
But I'm kind of taking it as a challenge because, like, Catholics are going into Lent right now, and I'm a spiritual person. So, for 40 days and 40 nights, maybe I can record a podcast once a week. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. But if you're still listening at this point to my endless rambling about my experiences, and it's a discussion board, I guess. It's just opening the space. So by all means, if you have any comments, questions, etc., of course I want to hear them. Like, it's an open forum, and yeah.
As of right now, would you, like, shoot those questions and comments to Barbie Jitsu on Instagram?
Yeah, I would do that. And since, like, probably most people know me personally, you can Facebook me, or I'm probably gonna post this on Facebook so you guys can, like, comment on it. And I'll pull it off, and we'll talk about that next time. So thank you so much for listening, and we're gonna go take care of business.